So I'm just going to introduce Hollie Whittles, our first speaker of the day.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
You introduce Hollie Whittles.
Okay, Hollie Whittles. If you don't know who she is, where have you been? Hollie has been involved in Digital Women as long as Lucy, as long as I. She has been a speaker at, if not all, many of these events. She's part of FSB. She is a big speaker and an advocate for the Federation of Small Businesses, is a director of 2 businesses. I could go on and on and on, but that will eat into her time. Everybody, Hollie Whittles.
Morning everyone, welcome to Birmingham, which is my home territory. Yay! So I'm really pleased to be here today, and I'm just going to have a go with this clicker and see if it works. It does. The future of tech is here. So thank you very much for coming today, and thank you to Lucy and the team for putting this together. It's an absolute honour to be here. Just a little bit about me. So I run 2 companies. One is a data analytics consultancy, which I'll come on to, and the other one is me as a speaker, so I go and speak at events like this. But let's start with a bit of science. I'm here to talk about the future of tech. And only 33% of consumers think they're using AI-powered technology, while 77% are actually already using it. So if I was to say to you, are you using AI, what would your answer be? Yes, no-ish, maybe? Silence.
Yes!
You are using it. So what is artificial intelligence? I'm going to start at the beginning and move forward into the future of where I think tech's going. So artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence in machines that are programmed to think like humans and basically mimic our actions. So it can also be applied to any machine that kind of exhibits a trait associated with the human mind, such as learning and problem solving. So examples of AI, and this is where I'm like, you're already using it. Google Maps, you must be using Google Maps. You must be using taxi applications like Uber. In real time, it's working out your location to find all of the available cars and determine which one is going to come to you. That's through an AI. Face detection, face recognition. So it's predicting and unlocking your smartphone based on your features. So you can install apps on your phone, so you can authorize bank transactions. We're already using autocorrect and text editors. It's trying to predict and it's trying to learn the way that you spell things, or in my case, how I spell things wrongly, and correct them. Search and recommendation algorithms. You know, cookies were only the beginning. Algorithms are getting smarter and smarter each day. And things like chatbots, it's about us working smarter. If we enable a chatbot on our website, we can be offline whilst we're online. It can take care of some of the frequently asked questions about your business. And things like digital assistants, and I'm not quite sure what's going to happen when I say this, but Alexa and Siri, everyone's phone is going to go off now. So these are examples of artificial intelligence that we are using in everyday life. But if you think about how Hollywood presents artificial intelligence, and this is more like the Hollywood movies, this is actually more wide. It's called wide AI. And it's more about the robots, and that's how they portray them in films. So things like RoboCop, and I remember when that came out when I was at school, and actually it was quite a graphic film, but about how they created this cyborg, you know, the Terminator, one of Arnie's best loved roles. And I do actually have a number plate with T800 on it, which is the model of him in the film. That's actually quite geeky. But in films like Interstellar, where you had the quadrilateral robots, towers and Case, the way that they moved on the screen was absolutely fantastic. Films like Tron that I grew up with, and I remember when Tron first came out, and that was the digital world, what would happen if you could get inside the machine? And I was just looking at this beautiful landscape, and then when they made Tron Legacy, and obviously movies have moved forward and how they can do things. I was just like, wow, can you imagine what that would be like? You know, Star Wars, 2 bickering androids is the main sort of cusp of how they tell that Star Wars story. And I'm a massive Trekkie, so Star Trek, Data, you know, the android with a positronic brain. So all of these films are bringing in what they kind of do as artificial intelligence Even silly films, like I don't know whether everyone remembers Short Circuit, Johnny Five is alive, you know, and he became alive in the film, and they were trying to establish whether he was actually alive or not. But films like Ex Machina as well, where they've kind of looked more into how you can determine whether you're talking to a machine or whether you're talking to a sentient life form. And that kind of brings me on to Alan Turing. And whenever I go into schools, that's one of the questions that I ask them, like, can anyone tell me who Alan Turing is? And quite often they just look at me blankly. Although last week I did actually have one girl, and I was like, yay, she knew who he was. So if you don't know who Alan Turing is, he was a brilliant British mathematician. And he took a leading role in World War II breaking Nazi ciphers. So all the stuff about Bletchley Park, the Enigma machines, he was a core part of that team to break those ciphers. But he came up with something called the Turing test. And the test is, can you have a text-based conversation with someone that you can't see and be fooled into thinking it's a human? And this is the ultimate test. And that's what that film, Ex Machina, was all about, was whether he could figure out whether she was actually real or not. And the answer shouldn't be pre-programmed, it should be that they're actually sentient answers. So in our business we do data analytics, so people often say, well, what does that mean? Well, we're dealing with big data, so we work with enterprise level customers to best manipulate their data. So if you think about banks, they have billions of transactions. We put it all into online cloud reporting, visual solutions. We then apply things like machine learning on top of it, which is about predicting patterns in data. So everything we do is about enabling humans to make better decisions with their data. So you might be thinking, well, what is machine learning? I might have heard of it. How does it work in real life? Well, at a very high level, it's the process of teaching a computer to make accurate predictions when it's fed some data. So those predictions could be whether a piece of fruit in a photo is a banana or an apple. You might have seen the one online where there's a load of cookies and then there's a picture of a dog, and it's trying to work out, is it a dog or is it a load of cookies? So there's a lot of different things that you can teach a computer, but the key difference between traditional computer software is that a human developer hasn't written the code that instructs the system, it's figured it out itself. That is the machine learning. So instead of a model where it's been taught stuff, it's learning and it's creating its own way of figuring it out. So that brings me on to human neural networks. So traditionally, machine learning has been very good at solving narrow artificial intelligence, where it's predicting a certain behaviour in humans. But to move to more general artificial intelligence, we're talking about restructuring the human brain, and that's what commonly is known as neural networks or deep learning, and that's where we get really, really complicated. But that's where things like self-driving cars come in. They are now amongst us. So with all of these talks, I try and make it real. So how can AI actually help run your business? So it might seem that artificial intelligence tools are only accessible to big corps like Google or Apple or Microsoft, but they are actually spending millions, billions of dollars in developing AI solutions, but they're pushing it out into mainstream society. So if you've got the iPhone, it's full of AI tech. And it's becoming a lot more accessible, more affordable for businesses, especially small businesses and micro businesses. So look what's happened with things like ChatGPT. It's an AI-powered app that can help you. And already this morning I've had conversations with people who are already using it. We were trying to explain it to my parents who'd read an article on this thing called ChatGPT, and they just thought it was like a text message thing. And we were like, no, it's like an AI that you can talk to and it's going to give you answers. So we got it out and got my parents on it. So they were asking it questions like, who shot JR? And we were like, okay, that's more of a Google search thing. That's where it come up with an answer. You have to make it do something. So then we came up with, I know, let's get it to write a poem. So we said, can you write a poem about our new pet dog? And it immediately spat out this amazing poem. Rhymed, was brilliant. And then we were like, okay, so we need to refine that poem. Actually, the dog, it was a black cockapoo and it was 6 months old. So put that information back into ChatGPT, and we also said make the poem a bit longer. immediately spat straight back out again with all those tweaks and corrections into it. So we had this amazing poem. So that was just a very simple way of using ChatGPT. But I've been talking to social media managers and marketers where they're like, actually, I feel like I'm cheating, but it gives me a starting point. If I've got a client that's running a very technical business where it's really hard to come up with content, or it's a very dry sort of area, why not put stuff into ChatGPT and say, create me this, and it will just straight away spit out an answer, and it gives you a starting point. But with all these things, you still have to have the human elements. You have to tweak it and just check what it's written, because if you just put it out straight away, there might be sort of certain assumptions that it's made. It's only been fed a certain amount of data. Like I asked it some generic questions and it didn't know the Queen had died, for example. So, the amount of data that's been put in only goes up to a certain point. But it's an excellent starting point. And it's a great way of writing copy, starting things. People are using it to write their CVs and resumes. I put one in. If anyone knows me, I play the clarinet, and that's my big passion. So I said to ChatGPT, write me a resume as if I was a professional clarinet player, which is kind of maybe what I could have done with my life. And it wrote me the CV. It took like about 1 second, and it was saying that I'd gone to the New York Philharmonic, and I'd run all these awards, and I'd gone all over the world, and I'd run this, that, and the other. And I was reading it thinking, actually, that is what a professional musician's CV reads like. I was just so impressed with it. So have a play with it and think about how perhaps you could start incorporating it into your business to maybe not replace you, but to help you work a little bit smarter. So the main advantage for businesses, especially with things like ChatGPT, is that it speeds up your results. But also things like smarter email marketing. So AI has played a significant role in marketing for a long time. So have you ever received an email with a subject saying, oh, hey, come back, we miss you? Well, that's implying that you haven't sort of visited for them while, you haven't opened up that email. But that's an AI working actively in the background to try and attract you back in. If you're not using email as a marketing strategy for your business, now's the time to start. In fact, you should go and talk to Teresa who's going to speak later on today. But it's a tactic that you can find use with artificial intelligence. And a lot of e-commerce systems will have integration with things like MailChimp. So you can start syncing your physical and your online presence. And by using automation tools, you can start limiting the number of people that you send your marketing to. So it's about getting more savvy with your marketing. But you could expand your team. You could start bringing in chatbots into your business. So chatbots like ManyChat. There's pop-up windows that appear when you first land on a website. If you have a website, it's a great way of incorporating that. It's like having an employee working for you 24/7. There's always going to be frequently asked questions, or how much does this, even though you've already put it on your website, people still ask you, how much does this cost, or how do I do this? And you're like, it's on the website. But anyway, chatbot could do that for you. And it's a communication platform that a lot of people prefer, and 53% of customers like to chat online before they start calling a company. So that's why a lot of these big corps are directing us into that chat feature. But don't just rely on AI completely. It's not a complete solution, because at some point, and I do this, I just put speak to a human, especially if I'm really cross about something. So, you have to have a way that you can escalate it to someone that can actually answer the problem. But I know Marks and Spencer's did a massive trial of using chatbots on their website, and they saw a big increase. They did it around Christmas time a couple of years ago, and people were chatting with it about Christmas recipes and how to cook your turkey and this kind of stuff, and it actually helped improve sales. So, just give it a go, plug it in and see what happens. But it's also about reducing repetitive and mundane tasks. There are loads of tools out there where machine learning can help assist you with sales. So if you're trying to schedule meetings, you can use tools like Calendly, where you say what times that you're free, and people can just book it straight into your calendar. Well, that saves about 5 emails or 5 messages going back and forth trying to figure out a time that you can meet. In our homes, we now have robo-mows. We've got a robo-mow that goes around and mows the lawn for us. We both hate mowing the lawn. We've called it Murphy after Robocop, and our cat sits on it and goes around the lawn. It's lovely. There's also Roombas that can actually do the hoovering in your kitchen. But I do have a very quick story about Roomba. My sister had a puppy, and their Roomba used to go out at night. And this puppy was just learning how to go outside, go to the loo. And unfortunately, Puppy had a bit of an incident in the kitchen that night, and the Roomba had gone out. And she said she came down the next morning, and there was just shit everywhere. So had to throw the Roomba away. And yeah, she sent me a message going, I don't even know where to start. So, there's always the human element. It will never be completely replaced. But the other positives of artificial intelligence is that you can remotely monitor a loved one's health. So wearable tech, those panic buttons, I need assistance now. You can do FaceTimes with people to make sure they've taken their pills on time. So the healthcare progression are looking at ways that they can use AI to speed up appointments. I was talking to a fascinating firm that have developed an AI solution, and whenever elderly people have been for an operation, they get to talk to one of these AIs, and they think they're speaking to a human, but actually it's not. But it's talking to them about the next steps after their operation, reminding them of when their next appointment is, asking them if they're okay, and they're having this big conversation. But it's meaning that the people that are doing these operations are actually freed up, and they can get through more patients. So that's a fantastic innovation in the healthcare sector. So I'm really excited actually with some of these things that are coming forward. And we're talking about the future of tech and, are robots going to take our jobs? Well, they probably will take some of the jobs that we're doing now, but we're going to be doing other things. So it's a really positive time. And if you think about things like your website, using things like Google Analytics, it's a no-brainer, because who doesn't want to know who's visiting their website to track their conversions? If you're doing social media campaigns, what's the return on investment? Are you getting a load of hits through onto your website? Are those sales converting? So things like that's been around for a long time. But if you're not using Google Analytics or some way of tracking people on your website, I would highly recommend doing it. But places like Netflix and Amazon, they've been doing it for a long time. So if you go onto Amazon, customers also bought this, this, and this. That's basket analysis. That is predicting what we're going to like based on what we've bought previously, but also customers that have also bought similar projects. So if you've got an e-commerce website, basket analysis is a great thing to plug in to help convert people at the till point. That's why in Tesco, they always have nuts and chewing gum and chocolates at the till point. It's like, I'll just buy one of those as well. You want to do the same thing on your website. Netflix, when it's showing you thumbnails of things to watch, it's generated those thumbnails for you. So if it knows that you like Matt Damon and he happens to be in a film, even if it's only in it for 5 minutes, he'll be on the thumbnail. So Netflix is really clever at figuring out what you like. And you can also plug in things like Talk IQ if you're using sales and telephone calls. Talk IQ actually integrates with call centres, and it listens in on calls to try and measure the effectiveness of salespeople. And are they complying? Are they giving the right customer service? So there's all sorts of things that we can implement in our business. But one area that I'm looking at the moment is human resources. So my main role in our current business is my current business sounds like I'm going to make up another business. I haven't got time for that. So I'm looking at how I can best get some candidates in. So I'm all about skills and apprenticeships and recruitment. But you can use AIs to scan CVs, and you can use chatbots to answer questions on onboarding new staff and training them up. So we can actually start working really quickly and get people into our organisations better. But there is a word of warning with that. Amazon were using an AI to screen CVs, but unfortunately it became very sexist because it learned from previous human data that was biased by humans. So you always have to be careful with when you're feeding these AIs and these machine learning things, they're learning from what you give it. So the New York Police Department, they tried to predict re-offenders, and that became very racist because of the data it was being fed. So yes, it can help us, but I keep coming back to there's always going to need to be that human element, that sanity check. And that makes me think about things like the ethics and the morality. So does anyone remember Knight Rider? Are you old enough, or am I really old? So Knight Rider's now here. We have self-driving cars. But how do you program those self-driving cars for all scenarios? So if in front of it it's got a granny or a child and it's in a no-win scenario and it's going to hit one of them, which way does that car swerve? As a human, we would instinctively choose one of the other. But as a car, how would you program that car to make the best choice? And that comes down to society. Maybe in the UK, we'd be more protect the child. In other countries where the elderly generation are more revered, the choice would be no, protect the elder. So again, you can't just program for one scenario. There's cultural differences as well. So the whole ethics and morality of AI is very, very complex when you start feeding data in and trying to program all these different things. So in big business, they're democratizing emerging technology. They're trying to make it accessible to everyone. So with things like remote working, hybrid working, it's trying to modernize our workforce and get the best tools for us using cloud-based solutions. Businesses are investing in front-end technologies, and they're trying to upgrade their back-end infrastructure. They're trying to make us more productive. And I always sort of laugh when I go into schools and colleges, because as a business owner, I'm still using email. But to them, that's so antiquated. They're instant messages and Snapchat and TikTok. What is this email? And quite often when we get young people into our business, they don't even start with hi or hello. It's like, blah, blah. And I'm like, you can't send an email like that. So I have to teach them how to write an email. And they're like, and the language they're using doesn't even make sense. It's real like text speak and to and are and you. And I'm like, again, you can't put that in an email. So you have to kind of retrain them. But actually, do we need to retrain ourselves and look at the way that we're working in our businesses and try and cut out some of this stuff so we can get on? And that's why we can start using AI to help us work smarter. So I do have a quick video I just wanted to play. I'm just going to see if it works.
I am not Morgan Freeman, and what you see is not real. Well, at least in contemporary terms, it is not. What if I were to tell you that I am not even a human being? Would you believe me? What is your perception of reality? Is it the ability to capture, process, and make sense of the information our senses receive? If you can see, hear, taste, or smell something, does that make it real? Or is it simply the ability to feel? I would like to welcome you to the era of synthetic reality. Now, what do you see?
So deepfake, that is now becoming a real thing across the internet. So my message to you is embrace AI, see how you can work smarter, but always keep that human element and challenge everything that you're seeing. Thank you very much.